Welcome to Girl You Good. I'm Cassandra Pickett, licensed therapist turned clinic coach and speaker, helping high-achieving women lead their personal lives with the same clarity and confidence they bring everywhere else. Quick episodes, real talk. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome to episode 10 of Girl You Good. And listen, we are not easing into this one. We are jumping in with some heat because today we're talking about what happens when you are helpful and furious. You know the feeling. You're doing all the things. You're being supportive, generous, showing up in all the ways you said you would. But underneath it, you're annoyed, exhausted, maybe even low-key ragey. And yet you keep smiling because it's who you are, right? Let's talk about the resentment that builds when your capacity outpaces your boundaries and what it looks like to stop being the hero of everyone else's story. For a lot of us, being helpful isn't just something we do, it's who we believe we are. We're the reliable ones, the fixers, the emotional first responders. We jump in before the request is even fully out of someone's mouth. And it feels good, it's meaningful, until you're carrying the group chat, the team, the household, the project, and no one even seems to notice that you're tired until you're sitting there smiling through gritted teeth, wondering, why do I feel so bitter when I said yes to all of this? That's the resentment whispering. And it's not because you helped, it's because your help was unsustainable. I always say resentment is not made out of what we do, it's made out of what we tolerate. Let me tell you a quick story that made me laugh out loud in the middle of yoga last week. I was in downward dog, really getting into my body and my zen. The woman behind me was also in downward dog, so I caught a glimpse of her smartwatch. It had the little green rectangle up. You know, it says like start your workout or whatever. I could tell it was the start your workout one. And without missing a beat, my brain was like, oh no, she didn't start her workout. And then I immediately laughed to myself, like, what exactly did I think was going to happen? Like, that I was going to roll out of my pose, tiptoe over and push the button for her? Absolutely not. I had the thought, but not the urge, just to be clear. But my snap reaction, that the immediate scan of what needed to be handled, upside down in downward dog, I am noticing, oh, she wanted that to happen. And it's not. I was noticing what needed fixed or made right. It was so telling. It struck me that this is where my autopilot is set, constantly tuned into what needs to be done, for whom, and how quickly I can solve it. I'm an Enneagram 3, so this will probably always be both my superpower and my Achilles heel. But the fact that someone else's workout not being tracked triggered my inner, this is yours to manage switch. That cracked me up. And it called me out. One of the sneakiest ways resentment shows up is silent scorekeeping. So there's a lot of ways this can become problematic for ambitious women. One is the sneaky way resentment shows up with silent scorekeeping. So you may start keeping tabs on how often you showed up and how rarely others do. You might mentally clock every time your partner forgets to say thank you, every time you felt invisible, every time you picked up the slack and nobody noticed. Here's the thing. When you're stuck in silent scorekeeping mode, you're not just resenting them, you're resenting yourself for not speaking up, for not resting, for saying yes when your gut screamed no. This goes back to that piece, resentment is made not in what we do, but what we tolerate. And that self-betrayal, it stings worse than any ungrateful text thread ever could. This one always hits hard. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Your capacity, your ability to handle hard things, juggle all the pieces, make it look easy, it's not the same thing as your calling, your purpose. We're not meant to live maxed out. We're not built for nonstop output. And when our entire identity is built on being helpful, your worth starts to feel conditional. And you know what follows? Burnout, resentment, emotional numbness. You stop even knowing what you want because you're so used to doing what's needed. What if your most generous move wasn't saying yes to everyone else, but saying yes to yourself? What if boundaries weren't a betrayal, but a way of making sure your giving actually comes from overflow? Of making sure your giving actually comes from overflow, not obligation. Generosity that comes from guilt or fear of disappointing people, that is not generosity. That is surviving. Let's practice sustainable helping, the kind where your yes is clear, your no is honest, and your support isn't laced with resentment. So here's a reflection. Where have you been helpful and furious? What are you holding on to that needs to be either released or renegotiated? And what would it look like to help less? Maybe love better? Thank you for listening to episode 10 of Girl, You Good? If this one hit home, please share it with your favorite overfunctioner. You know exactly who I mean. I'll catch you next week. As always, I'm rooting for you.